the YouTubes. Awesome. Today's going to be really good, folks. I hope you are ready for some thought-provoking stuff in video number 1. So today we'll kind of lay the groundwork. What is trauma? What have I seen so far? And we're going to go pretty deep into this whole traumatic thing. No expectations of anybody being traumatized from these talks. And also, I think if that's a concern for you, you got work to do. Okay. So just saying, if you're like, oh my God, I don't want to learn about what this expert knows about trauma when he's dealt with like close to 1,000 clients, mostly have all had trauma in their lives and had some pretty good responses. But before we do all that, we're going to do our famous simultaneous squeeze. So to get ready for the best live stream you've seen all day. This is going to be the best live stream you've watched in the entire span of your entire day. That's my guarantee. Okay, so ready? Breathe in. Take a little bit of sip at the air at the top and hold it and squeeze. And exhale. Oh, that feels so good. That is such a good feeling to get that rush of air, of oxygen all throughout the body. Honestly, better than a cup of coffee. Way better than just a simple cup of coffee. I don't even think you can beat that. I don't even think you can get that from a drug, if I'm being honest. I don't know. I don't do a lot of drugs, so I'm not an expert to ask on this. But all in all, main thing that we're going to start off with here today is, now that we're in a nice, calm, relaxed state, is let's talk about trauma. I think for today's video, we're going to keep it short-ish, maybe around the 15-20 minute mark, just so that's kind of a consumable little snapshot snippet of what trauma is. So who am I? How do I know about this subject? Well, well, first of all, I'm a human being, and I think every human being has had trauma in their life to varying degrees, some horrific, some not so horrific. Some people have had relatively nice, good lives that have had no trauma, and that's awesome. If you have that life, I'm really happy for you. If you haven't had a privileged life, a silver spoon in your mouth kind of life, and you have been the victim of trauma, then also I would say great. If you've been able to transmute that trauma into something beneficial, if you've found some way to help other people from that, then I also congratulate you on what a gift. What a gift. Because I think that people who have been truly hurt know how to help other people better. So that's just a fact. But also, I shouldn't have this big. I bought this shirt this weekend. It's got this big ass logo on it, and I just got back from this huge weekend plus retreat over in the Olympic National Park. So I am just freshly sunburnt and really tuckered out from that whole experience, but it was very fun. I took some damage from it, but I'm going to make it. My body is sore all over. I did paddle boarding. I did hiking. We slept in a tent. It was freezing cold last night. My neck is like in need of some iron neck love today. So, woo, but we're here for it. So my expertise comes from having worked with people, human beings that have health issues that they don't maybe necessarily believe was connected to trauma. But I think that trauma from a long time ago event can add up and put stress on your body. And that stress on your body can manifest itself as physical health issues like inflammation, depression, high blood pressure, you name it. So trauma that's happened to you psychologically can absolutely build up into severe life-altering physical stress, which can then manifest itself into your body killing itself. And that's, in essence, overwhelming levels of inflammation is about what I would consider the closest approximation to your body finding some simple way to eat itself from the inside out and to kill itself. That's what inflammation is. And also, for those watching as well as on the replay, please feel free to jump in here and correct me if I'm wrong. If you don't believe that trauma, well, let's not even focus on the trauma thing. If you don't believe that inflammation can cause the body to eat itself alive from the inside out, then please share so in the chat. Please correct me in real time here. If you were like, no, that's not true. No, inflammation, it's only good. No, it's not. We know rheumatoid arthritis is an inflammatory condition, and that's not a form of inflammation at all. Thank you, Charlene. Good. Absolutely agree. Now, I totally appreciate you agreeing with me on that. And I think you, in your own right, are an expert in this field because I know you. And as well, I'd like to keep that line of communication still open. Whereas if anybody believes that inflammation is not in any way connected to trauma, please feel free to correct me. Correct the record. Share your opinions. Share your alternative theory on what I'm talking about. So when you're psychologically and physically traumatized, usually in childhood, if that trauma is not dealt with, then your body will basically, the body starts to believe that it's unworthy of love, of relaxation, of peace and inner quiet and inner sanctum. And when that happens for long enough, the body eventually says, well, if the body can't relax, if it can't get into a parasympathetic vagus nerve stimulated state, then I think that the body says, well, if I'm not going to be dead, I might as well start the process of killing myself immediately. And that's what inflammation long term is. That's what an autoimmune condition is, in a way. If you really want to get creative here, autoimmune conditions are a way of the body decomposing you before you're dead. There's really no other way to look at it. And the reason that signal would start in your brain is if you didn't feel worthy of living. So be careful, all of you who may have some belief in your mind that says, I'm not worthy of living. I should be dead. I'm better off dead. And when you think of it like that, I want you to imagine yourself saying it just in the voice that I'm saying right now. Like you're a little tiny little baby and you don't know any better. And you're thinking to yourself, I don't deserve to be alive. I don't deserve to be alive. I should be dead. And if you have those beliefs stuck somewhere deep in your brain, then if your body doesn't die, God, look at how many kids get themselves into positions where they could easily die, crawling up on buildings, playing with drugs, driving cars fast. Gosh, kids who don't know what trauma is and don't know how to resolve it typically are trying to live out the belief that they may have developed from a traumatic experience of, I'm not worthy, I'm not deserving of being alive in the first place. Raise your hand or nod your head or just internally agree if you know for a fact that there's been some cycle of thinking in your brain in your lifetime that said, I'm not deserving of life. I know I have. I know that for a fact. And my reason was, gosh, what were my reasons? All the reasons are bullshit because everybody's deserving of life. So who really cares? You think if I gave you a good enough reason, you'd be like, yeah, you know what? You're right. I think the only reason that I could give you is like, if I was like, I watched someone drown while I held my foot on their forehead and they died on a dock one summer and I never told anybody. And I feel like I should be dead. Maybe there could be some situations where people would agree like, yeah, you're kind of a douchebag. You're kind of an evil person. You probably need to be dealt with in some way. So there are people like that. There absolutely are people like that who, if they carry the belief in their head, like, I'm not worthy of living, which almost always comes from a traumatic event, then maybe I would say, maybe either they need to be, let's just say that they need to be dealt with in some way. Let's just say that, okay? Maybe that means just putting them in prison. I don't know. If bad people are out there, we should do something about the bad people. I'm not a crazy San Francisco liberal who's going to say we should release all the criminals onto the streets. That's a good idea. No, I think that's a pretty god-awful idea, actually. So everybody's had at some point in time some belief that they're not worthy, they don't deserve to breathe air. Everybody's had that. If you don't deal with those beliefs in your brain, that is what the trauma does. Trauma by itself, if insulated well enough in your brain that has no access to your belief mechanisms and your values, can't do much to you. If you are heavily insulated in terms of your belief system, and you have a really robust belief system that says, no matter what somebody says to me, I'm not going to believe them just because they said I should. If you have a strong belief system and a conviction that you deserve to be alive, that God put you on this damn planet to do something with your time, not just to waste your time, and that even if you weren't born with a specific tablet in your hand that told you exactly everything that you would ever need to do in your entire life, just because you weren't born with the instructions doesn't mean that you have a purposeless life. That's completely ridiculous. That's ridiculous. And I actually think that a lot of people are walking around today thinking, oh man, I don't know why I'm here. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing on this planet. That must mean that I'm wasting air, I'm wasting oxygen, and I'm not deserving, I'm not worthy of being alive, or whatever kind of BS nonsense people believe. That's what causes the harm. Because you could take two people who were traumatized in exactly the same way, abducted when they were a kid, abused when they were a kid, beaten when they were a kid, whatever it is. Take two twin girls, both had the same experience, but both of them had different teachings around, hey, you have beliefs in your brain, you have words and language in your head, and you're going to be saying those words to yourself every single day. Susie, I believe fundamentally that everything that's happening to me on this planet is a gift and a lesson so that I can transmute it to go out in the world and help other people be better people, that I can better myself and I can better others through the lessons, as tough as they may be, that I've been given the gift of having happened. Because there are certainly thousands of other similar traumatic cases that have come before you that are almost, let's just say they're similar enough where somebody could maybe guide you or coach you or work you through or walk you through the belief system to develop post-trauma. There's a post-traumatic belief system, PTBS. I think that's a perfect acronym. PTBS, post-traumatic belief system. Put that in the chat. PTBS, post-traumatic belief system, oddly chosen enough, just literally here on the spot, because it also sounds like post-traumatic bullshit. Whereas most people walking around that think they're traumatized, as if you could be traumatized, as if God himself or herself, or if the universe, whatever you believe could put you here on this planet, created you as a vessel for holding on to trauma. Get the fuck out of here. Get out of here with that nonsense. You think that the creator, the all-knowing creator, fashioned a vessel with arms and legs and a brain and hands and feet and a heart and love and the capacity to do incredible things, to build incredible civilizations, created you as some kind of a vessel, like a container for trauma? So you could just walk around this planet being traumatized all the time? That sounds like some PTBS to me. And I would say that rather than looking at you as being a traumatized person, recognize that as you developed a post-traumatic belief system. You developed PTBS that allowed you to keep in your mind one component of a belief that said you don't deserve to live. And your body took that as a message to create inflammation so that your entire body would inflame itself so that you could basically decay while still being alive and before you end up dead somehow. Because gosh, don't people try to kill themselves in some subtle ways, drinking themselves to half to death, looking at their phones half to death, basically living a non-living life in the first place. They're too damn coward to actually kill themselves, and they're just sticking around long enough to hope that they die a painless death. That's the whole thing. And it's because of PTBS. Not PTSD, but PTBS. And for those just tuning in, PTBS stands for Post-Traumatic Belief System. And one of the greatest things that I learned running a vagus nerve stimulation and repair program now for 6 years is that when you stimulate someone's vagus nerve, is that their belief system becomes more open to change. And you could put someone through 4 years of talk therapy and not get an ounce of the change potential that 1 week of putting them through my program can get them. Just a fact. Just a certain absolute fact. And I've had clients who've been in therapy for 2 years fire their own psychoanalytic therapist because what they get in my program is far better. And I'm not sitting around with people saying, okay, well, let's dig up your trauma and let's do this and let's do that. No, we don't do any of that shit. That's complete garbage. That's garbage. That's like trying to fly from New York City to London in like the Wright brothers' first plane. It's super antiquated, and you're just destined to fall out of the sky and crash and burn. It just doesn't work. The talk therapy thing does not freaking work. And I think that your vagus nerve has a belief system language in it, which is why you typically see when people start to just stimulate their vagus nerve with ultrasound that they immediately start thinking better, more high quality thoughts. I've had so many clients go through our vagus nerve stimulation repair program with ultrasound who after 1 month, 2 months are immediately telling me, Sterling, I don't feel as encumbered by anxiety, depression, trauma, recurring negative intrusive thoughts, and I didn't do anything else other than stimulate my vagus nerve. And it's your vagus nerve that gives you this ability. It's your vagus nerve that gives you this power. And so all we do in our program is we just stimulate the vagus nerve effectively using frequency modulation of the vagus nerve. That's it. That's not the only thing we do. Obviously, we do neck strengthening and we do supplementation and diet modification to make sure your vagus nerve is healthy and happy. And then we do offer some pretty, I'd say, remarkable mindset influences, some mindset support like the Hour of Power or ultra priming or virtual reality, which is incredibly powerful stuff. I was just doing some virtual reality on Thursday of last week. So last Thursday and Friday, I picked up my VR headset, which is just right back here. You can see it right here. And I have loaded on there Hour of Power and ultra priming. And you're doing it in 3 dimensions. And this stuff is, I'm telling you, there's just nothing quite like it. It's just very powerful mindset support. And one of the practices we do in ultra priming is a practice where I say, now reach inside. And now this is, 30 minutes into a process. So I'm just kind of selecting out one traumatic release process from actually what is a 45-minute long session that you can do daily if you want. And I've had people do priming, ultra priming, every single day for months on end. And guess how much more in tune with their whole everything that they are. It's amazing. Don't look at a practice like that and go, oh man, 45 minutes of ultra priming. You probably spend 3 hours watching content in some way, shape, or form, and that's doing jack squat for you, I'm sure. It's doing very little for you compared to what you could be doing with ultra priming. But anyway, just going to about the 30-minute mark of the ultra priming video is there's a specific framing, and it goes like this. Now reach inside and imagine ripping out any limiting beliefs in your life and burning them in the fire. Feel yourself free from them. Literally, physically rip them out and then throw them out and then celebrate your freedom. 1, 2, 3, go! And then you stand up out of your chair and you put your hands like this and you go, yes! Yes! Like that. You make a power pose, a powerful move, and you use your voice and you use your diaphragm and you breathe out and you activate your vagus nerve through your voice. None of this, okay, well, I want you to relive your trauma. You don't need to relive your trauma. You just need to say, hey, the door is there. Don't let it hit you on the way out. Don't let the door hit you on the ass while you're walking out. Trauma. But it's not the trauma, because all we could really say that trauma is a memory, right? There's a memory of an event that happened to you in the past. Fact. A trauma is a memory of something unpleasant, but it occupies the same type of memory function. It occupies the same memory space right next to the time where your mom made you a delicious apple pie with whipped cream on the top. That sits adjacent, literally in position, directly next to, oh my God, when you were a young child, you were kidnapped and abused by your neighbor, Joe Bim Bob Bob. And those two memories are sitting next to each other. One of them happens to have created some PTBS in your brain. The traumatic experience created PTBS, post-traumatic belief system. You've tangled the web of beliefs to incorporate and include what was an event that was totally out of your control. How logical, how rational is it for a 4-year-old child to create any meaning out of an event that was traumatic that happened to them? Like, as if that 4-year-old brought it upon themselves. As if, oh, that was my karma. Yeah. You know what? Whoever thinks that, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. Here's why. Because when I was 4 years old, I was getting ready. I was ready to go to school one morning. And then my mom and my dad got into a fight, and I was 4 years old. And then my mom and my dad started hitting each other. My dad being stronger than my mom. It was pretty a one-sided fight. And I was 4 years old. And I was traumatized by this experience, no doubt about it. Everybody, all my caregivers, my sister, my mom, all my teachers said, Sterling, well, they would say, something very bad happened to Sterling. He looks different. He doesn't interact with people the way he did just a few weeks ago before this event happened. And that lasted for about 6 to 8 months. And it was a don't look at me, don't talk to me, I'm not here kind of thing. Now, what was the actual belief system developed there? you could probe it. You could say, well, maybe it was that I didn't do enough. I should have done enough. I'm not good enough. And this could happen to me anytime again. And as a 4-year-old, to create beliefs out of that, that's PTBS, not post-traumatic syndrome. And it's not PTSD, not post-traumatic stress disorder. It's called PTBS, post-traumatic belief system. And a trauma is a memory that happens to create beliefs, a belief system out of it. The belief system being the reason it's re-traumatizing and it holds you back is because you created a belief system based on that trauma. And that belief system is telling your body that you're not worthy of living. And your immune system says, well, you've told me this enough for the last 20 years. How about I just make it into the truth? Right? And then that's why your joints get attacked by your immune system. That's why you develop an autoimmune condition. And that's why your body gets inflamed, because your body's saying, well, basically, since I'm not dead yet, but my user up here, my belief system up here, thinks I might as well be dead, that it ends up creating this hostile work environment internally in your body. And the inflammation just basically tries to kill you before you're dead. And that's it. That's it. So how do you deal with it? Well, like I said, ultra priming. We do that in ultra priming all the time. It's very simple. It's very simple. It's very effective. You call in response back to your beliefs. You probe your beliefs. You understand which ones are there. And then you excise them from your body and you pull them out and you throw them in a fire and you burn them up. It's easy. It's very easy. And the funniest thing, one last thing I'll add here, is typically when you ask someone to pull trauma out of their body physically, meaning there's an energy, but they physically reach inside their mouth, like they're reaching their hand all the way into their stomach, or they're pulling it out of some part of their body, guess what happens? They typically start to gag, to almost dry heave, like they're gonna puke. I've seen people start spitting like they're gonna puke. And some people I've seen actually almost like dry heave enough where a little bit of puke comes out. And there's nothing, they're not taking anything. They're not on drugs. There's no ayahuasca in sight. This is just straight up trauma release by energetically pulling bad belief systems out of your body, causes people to want to vomit. That should tell you a lot right there. And that I'm sharing that should tell you a lot. And given that the vagus nerve is what regulates your ability to vomit, that should tell you a lot of things right there. So anyway, since we're going to keep this as a 4-part series, let's wrap it up there. So we're going to do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. All of these days, we're going to talk more about trauma and PTBS, post-traumatic belief systems. And we're going to give you some strategies and some tools and all kinds of stuff on how to do this, right? So if you've ever been afraid to take a look at your trauma, I can assure you that it's absolutely possible to safely and effectively release it or pull it out of your body without having to re-experience it. Totally true. You do not have to re-experience trauma to untraumatize yourself. And I'll show you how. And you can try it. And you're not going to see me crying here on camera like nothing like that. Maybe I will cry because I might share something that's deeply personal, but it's not going to be because I'm re-experiencing trauma. If anything, it's just because I'm having a moment, like a beautiful moment. That's the kind of journey that we may be able to go on here today and this week. So for the rest of the week, it's going to be a 4-part campaign on trauma in the vagus nerve. And we're going to go deeper and deeper and deeper every day. So I hope you're able to catch all 4 of these days. We're going to keep them short for a reason because we're going to sequentially layer them on top of each other. But as far as what you need to know for right now, that's about it. So that's about all I've got to say, especially for YouTube. So thanks so much for watching on YouTube's. And